The Welsh royal tour to America is behind them. Meanwhile, the Sussexes have released a teaser for their documentary in black and white. Dramatic snippets viewers saw Meghan's tears, Harry's despair and a promise to tell their story, which is closely linked to a confrontation with the royal family and the British media. Well, Oprah #2 is coming, stories about Meghan's racial oppression again, well, or whatever you call it when a person is offended to be asked about skin color and where they come from. The Duchess' mental ill health and how she and Harry were forced to leave the firm. Speaking of Oprah, the press has heard from some anonymous friend of Harry's who relayed the prince's words before his March 2021 interview. According to the source, the prince expected a violent reaction from royal relatives to the interview, and allegedly added that he needs to teach these Brits a lesson who offended his wife. It's unclear how accurate these words are, but an insider clarified that on the eve of his revelations with the talk show star, the prince said, "It's going to be pretty shocking." The resonance was big and the world was indeed shocked by what they heard, although not everyone believed Sussex's words and got into their stories. Now, a source who has been linked to Netflix has revealed that Meghan and Harry's new revelations will shock the palace, and the Brits in a similar way to that interview. Reports that the Sussexes allegedly would like to soften their narrative on the show so as not to upset the monarch's in-laws after the Queen's departure have not been confirmed. Harry supposedly intends to touch on the subject of racial oppression towards his wife, opposition to their marriage to Meghan by relatives, refusal to help Meghan with her psychological problems, refusal to defend them in the face of libel in the British press, that sort of thing. It's not quite clear to me what the prince and his duchess would like to achieve by this, as they have already expressed all their grievances in interviews. Or not all of them. Besides, isn't this the same thing Harry will be writing about in his memoirs? Or maybe the subject of race and grievances against the royal family only comes up because they have nothing else to fill their output for net. That said, it is reported that the palace does not intend to tolerate what they see as unfounded allegations from the Sussexes, and William and Charles are already preparing to respond, if necessary. To this end, the palace is holding emergency talks with senior court officials and a rapid response plan is being drawn up. Silence and ignoring problems as under Elizabeth will no longer work. To do this, officials will be instructed to review several parts of the inspirational love story, to find inaccuracies and attacks on the royal family. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry also reportedly used footage taken at Buckingham Palace to create this most inspirational love story. The issue has also been raised as to how and why the Sussexes secretly brought their photographer to the palace without the Queen's permission. Moreover, a complaint was sent to the production company Archwell Production from the palace about these pictures. However, few were surprised by such a surprise. Sources say that the process of creating the series, as well as its content, is largely controlled by the Duchess herself, so the images for her inspiring love story must have been chosen by her. As for the royal family's reaction to the upcoming inspirational show, it is reported that Windsor is not so much excited as tired of Meghan and Harry's accusations. A palace source even mentioned that the family are disappointed that they did the Duke and Duchess a great honor during the Queen's farewell ceremonies, when Harry was allowed to wear his military uniform once and allowed Meghan to join the rest of the family. And look how they repaid them. However, what the Sussex family will actually show in their series is yet to be seen.
I honestly think it's going to be worse than the royal family can imagine, a source told Netflix. I'm told it will be shocking and cause a lot of damage. Many people are either pro-Sussex or pro-William and Kate, but there's a feeling that this documentary will draw people to Harry and Meghan. The big question is, whatever the revelations, whose side people will take after watching the show. It feels like the public will have to choose. Whatever happens, some people will think Harry is betraying his family and that this is unforgivable. But if what finally airs turns out to be as seismic as we've been led to believe, it could be good for the Sussexes.
Sources say this is what the palace fears. That is, they fear that some part of the public will believe Meghan and Harry and this will aggravate the monarchy, which is already being undermined by incidents like the one involving Lady Susan Hussey and Ngozi Fulani. Charles and Camilla have therefore invited Fulani to the palace to hear her out and discuss all her grievances. In the meantime, Lady Hussey is irrevocably suspended from her position and from the court, and to sort out who is right and who is wrong, the King and Queen consort do not appear to intend to. The main thing is to placate representatives of cultural diversity. Well, it is a common practice in the royal family. Those who stumble indiscriminately get thrown out of the public eye and deprived of everything. It's the firm's image that counts. Especially against the backdrop of the Pulse of Hope award ceremony, which will be awarded to the Sussexes for their fight against structural, that very word. Human rights activist and Robert Kennedy's daughter Kerry Kennedy chose Meghan and Harry for the honor, praising them for their moral courage, and comparing their complaints about the royal family to her famous father's fight against apartheid. Against this background, it becomes quite curious what effect the Sussex film will have in America, as the reaction of the British public is, I think, not entirely foreseeable.